Hello and welcome to this episode of the Ranting Atheist podcast. Today we'll be listening to the deconversion story of a Nigerian atheist who comes from a Christian background, and she shares in as much detail as possible. So that's why this is a two-part story. So the first part, we'll listen to it this week, and the second part, the conclusion, listen to it next week. Yeah, so this interview was done by someone else. It was done by Mugi. You may have heard that story. This was a conversation between friends that we're privileged to listen to. So I believe you enjoy our story. So if you haven't subscribed up, please consider subscribing on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, and other places podcasts are available. Then check out the show notes for links you may find useful, including our Discord server. Would love to have you there. And now, let's go and listen to the conversion story of Lillian.
So hi, my name is Moge. I'm going to be the one doing the session today, and I'm here with someone. So would you like to introduce yourself?
Okay, hi. My name is Chigozirim. You can call me Lillian. Anyone goes.
Yeah. So do you want to say more or just your name?
Okay. Okay. Oh my God, I'm sorry. I feel like awkward.
So awkward for both of us because we know each other. We are friends. So for those who don't know, basically.
Yeah. Okay, let me add more to my introduction. My name is Chigozirim or Lillian. I'm a final year law student at the University of Ibadan. And yeah, I feel like that's
it.
What will come.
Yeah. And yeah, we are here today because we are both atheists. So I'll be asking you some questions in that regard. So first of all, what's your religious background, or do you want to say something about your family background?
Okay, yeah, I would like to do that. So I grew up Christian, very Christian as it gets. I grew up in the church. Oh my God, it was I feel like church was a very big part of my life for up until my teenage years or late teenage. I was in the choir.
Mm-hmm.
I was very active in the youth ministry. I don't know.
Oh, wow.
Listeners from Nigeria will get it because it was, oh my God. It wasn't one of the churches, one of these big time churches, that you just say, Redeem.
Yeah.
You just say their names and you get what I'm talking about. It was a neighborhood church, so to speak. But I was a church kid, basically. I feel like that's the best way to put it. I was a church kid.
Yeah. So, was your family very strict with, church going, or how are your parents? Because there's one thing to grow up in a religious setting or in a religious environment where everybody's going to church, but it's another thing within the family. It's a different setting sometimes.
Okay, yeah. I would say it was more my mother because my father is the kind of Christian. The kind of people that you ask, oh, are you a Christian? And they're like,
yes,
I'm more of a religious person. Do you get the vibe? So He wasn't into church going. He actually wasn't. I feel maybe he was before I was born. Mm-hmm. As far as I can remember, he hardly ever came to church. He used to read his Bible and everything, but my mother was very, very active in the church. She's even a deaconess. She's a deaconess.
Oh.
She started from being in charge of the youth ministry, then the children ministry. I think she's still in charge of the children ministry in the church. Mm-hmm. So that was the fact that my father wasn't attending church did not matter. My mom was very strict about it. You have to attend. So I was always in the church. We had Monday Bible studies. Mm-hmm. We had Thursday prayer meetings. We had choir practice on Saturday. We had vigils 2 Fridays in every month. We had Sunday service, of course. So,
so you guys had all these things, and yet you still turned out to be an atheist.
This is. Do we want to get into that now? Do we?
No. Let's take it slow. Let's take it slow.
Okay.
Yeah. So your mom, but that's one thing that I've noticed in a lot of Nigerian families. So the mom is usually the one that is more religious, and the dad is kind of, like laid back or
very laid back,
expected. But how about your siblings? Like, how many do you have? How was it growing up? Like when it comes to religion.
Okay, I have 4 siblings, so we're 5 children, me included, and I would say back then and even now they weren't super religious. It was more of like a routine. Everybody was going to church, so of course we were going to church. But like when it came to their day-to-day life, when it came to their interactions with people, Christianity was more in the background than anything. In fact, the irony is that I was the super religious one. I was overcompensating. We'll get into it later, but I was definitely overcompensating. So I was in fact, oh my God, I could tell you stories. There was a time, like growing up, we used to have these things, deliverance, deliverance sessions or whatever, where you would it would go on for a week.
Oh, wow.
Be fasting every day. You would go to church. You would fast from when you wake up till 2 p.m. for the children. But then if you're a teenager or a young adult,
children
up to 6.
Children fast too?
Yeah, children fast during deliverance. The rules are more lax for them, but like my mother made sure I fasted. And then the way it was set up, you would do all of that. And then on the final day, they would have this thing. Normally, you'll be praying in the congregation with everyone else involved in the deliverance or whatever. But on the final day, you would have like a one-on-one meeting with the ministers, and they would pray for you and they would get revelation about you. So I was... it's not funny recalling all of this, but I went through that twice. And the first time I truly cannot remember how old I was, but I think I wasn't up to 10 then, or maybe I was, but I was not yet 18, do you get? And I remember, because it's something that really shaped the expectations that my mother had for me when it came to Christianity, because the ministers were talking about how I was made for God, and they saw a Bible, God revealed to them that there was a Bible on my head, so I'm going to do big things in the kingdom. And basically it was just setting me up for a path where I would become a minister.
Yeah.
Church.
Wow,
so,
that's
all of that.
That's so shocking to me, knowing you. So I'm a little bit surprised about that you were in fact at some point in your life very, very religious, because I don't know when we got to know of each other. I think it was in our teens when we were still very young.
Yeah.
So by then I already felt you were not as religious as you're saying now.
Yeah, I wasn't.
So it was, you still started converting very, very young. So when did you start feeling some type of way when it came to religion?
If I am being completely honest, I started feeling some kind of way the moment I was able to have rational thoughts. Because this is the thing. You know me, I love books.
Yeah.
I love to read. From an early age, I was reading above my grade. I was lucky enough to grow up in a house where there were a lot of books. Books across the board, different genres, books that explored every subject. So I was reading stuff, and it started making me curious about the world. It started making me curious about the things that people expected me to believe. And my curiosity made me to be the kind of person that was always asking questions. And a big part of religion is you need to accept what they're telling you.
You just accept.
You're not supposed to ask questions, just accept.
Yeah.
So reading books, the Bible is a book. So I was obviously reading the Bible. I think I've read the Bible back to front like twice in my life.
What?
So I'm kidding. So whenever I digress, but I'll go back to my earlier point. But right now, whenever Christians try to like engage with me and try to like make me school me, so to speak, I'm like, don't play with me. But anyhow, so when I was reading all of that, like a lot of things did not add up. I was so young, but I realized that a lot of things didn't add up. And then I would ask these questions and I would get shut down. I would ask my mother, I would ask during Sunday school, and I would get shut down and be like, no, that's not what you're supposed to be concerned about. You're supposed to be concerned with salvation and all of that. And why I said I started overcompensating was because, oh my God, this is bringing up a lot of trauma, but let's talk about it. Christianity, the foundation of Christianity is this deep belief that you are inherently sinful.
Yeah.
And so like them making me feel guilty for asking this question, it was not like, oh, the sin within you is what is making you like this. It's making you curious. It's making you interrogate us. It's making you not believe what we tell you to be true.
Yeah.
So I now started like, I feel like I internalized this guilt. As much as things did not make sense in my head, I now like started criticizing myself. Like, these things don't make sense because you are evil. These things don't make sense because they are sinful. And that pushed me deeper into the religion. That's when I became very devout. I started fasting on my own. On my own, no program, on my own. I'm like, I want to know God better. Oh my God. And seeing all of that, people around me were very impressed, obviously, because like this is what they wanted. So even when deep down, I realized that I truly do not believe these things. And whenever, the more I ask questions within myself, the more I try to like make up for it by being more involved. So that's it. I always knew something was wrong, but I just like try to make myself believe.
How old were you when, you started accepting the fact that you just did not believe in these things?
I would say, as you said, around the time, I'm trying to be for a particular age.
So we met on Nairaland. I joined Nairaland, I think 2013. So I was 14 around that time. But I think I got to know you later. So when I was probably 16.
Then I would say when I was 18.
Yeah.
I would say when I was 18, I was like, nah, I can't.
Yeah.
I can't do this. It wasn't an automatic like end for me. Even after I realized that I couldn't do it, I was still going to church.
Oh, really? So you were still kind of like performing, going to church?
I was still performing. Were
you still living at your parents' at that time?
Okay. I feel I was. And then when I got into school, I was living with a relative.
Yeah.
And she was religious, and it was a big thing. I wasn't required to attend all the evening services and all of that, but Sundays were a big thing, so I was still attending. I feel like even when I got back home and I wasn't with my parents, I was living with my sister, I still went with her.
Yeah.
On Sundays. In fact, I remember the last like big thing that I was involved in her church is when they were doing a children's program, so I had to like teach the children's songs and whatever, which is pretty much what I was doing with my mother back home. But I remember when the complete shift, when I was like, okay, yeah, I'm actually sick. I can't do this anymore. Was 2019. Yeah.
Well, that's interesting. And it's also kind of sad because, I think curiosity is very normal, especially for kids. And the fact that kids are made to feel guilty for asking questions actually, and just because you yourself, if you start thinking of these questions, there would be a problem. You start, you just, a lot of things would stop making sense. So because kind of like, project onto those little kids, you don't want them to ask questions, and you kind of make them feel guilty about it. So it's quite sad because I wonder how many kids, like if they had been allowed to be curious, how many kids are religious today. So yeah, so they kind of like shut that down very, very early on.
Yep. because it's easy to indoctrinate children. As long as you get the children, you've won. Because if you can get them when they're young and you make them believe whatever lie you're telling them and they grow, it takes a lot for you to like shake off that hold that it has on you. Yeah. It takes a lot. So once you're able to indoctrinate them at such an early age, like the chances of them letting go of that belief system is quite high.
So when did you eventually stop going to the church? And so another thing I'm curious about is does your family know that you stopped going to church?
Yes.
You're not a full-blown atheist. How was their reactions? And
Okay. As I said, I feel like the last time I went to church was 2019, if I remember correctly. Yeah, it was definitely pre-COVID, so 2019. But before then, at least once, okay, let me backtrack. Before I actually got into the university, I was already like rebelling. I was a very rebellious child. That's why I said that I
already know that.
Of course you do.
But I'm not judging because I was as well. So
of course, like it's very necessary. I feel like I feel like every Nigerian woman has to be rebellious. If you want to shake off a lot of like oppressive, you have to be rebellious. So like from 15, 16, I was already like voicing, like I was making it obvious that I did not believe this anymore. And I was I was staging a revolution, so to say, because like I started like skipping Saturday choir practice. I was in the choir. I used to lead praise. I used to like do the whole shebang. And I said like, I'm not in the mood.
Because I can't even picture it. I can't imagine being at the very forefront leading the praise for.
Oh my God. I like to think that I've lived so many lives. Like when I think of that Chigozrim, it's like, who was she?
I don't know her.
I don't know her. So I started skipping choir practice. Oh, I didn't even mention when we used to have like family devotion, because that was my mother. My mother was always, I want everybody to be devout. I want everybody to believe. I want your faith to be strong. So she would hold, like we would have morning devotion or night devotion. As I was always making a fuss, like it was always an issue. I'll be like, all of you should go. I'm not coming for that. And to be like, she goes, why are you doing this? And so it started from there, missing out on choir practice, getting into fights with my mother because like I said, I'm not interested in this. And then she would find a way to cajole me. And even when I eventually like went to them, like the room where we used to have it, everybody seated and they're singing, my voice would be very low. She goes, you're not singing. I'm not singing. You want to start again? Okay. When they're praying, I would say amen.
Yeah.
I would skip like Saturday practice for like 3 weeks in a row. And then every time I would have to go for Sunday service. And they're like, what happened? Why didn't you come? And I'll say, something came up. And it became a thing. It became a thing in the choir. Like whenever I come, they'll be like, something came up. So like all those little rebellions were my way of saying, I truly do not give a fuck about this anymore. I truly cannot. But still, I still had to, because I still felt very, I don't know, like my mom was still able to like tug at my heartstrings. Like I'll be like, oh, this poor woman, let me just.
She's mom. Like it's kind of difficult sometimes because you know that they care about you and they are doing it out of love. And I think it's easier for me if I'm arguing with my mom and we are both kind of like going at each other and going off at each other, like shouting at each other. But once she's, once I see how sad she is and she's calm and it's like, Muge, why? Like the worst person ever, the worst.
I just become mellow.
Like, Miss, why am I like this? Do you get? It's kind of difficult. But I'm also curious, how was your dad's reaction to the rebellious?
The thing is, at that time, I get compared to my dad a lot because we have similar personalities to an extent. So when all of that was happening, it was a big thing because my mother was always like, "Oh, you're trying to be like your dad. You're trying to be like your dad." And so my dad would now be like, like when he's trying to convince me, because it wasn't the only time he ever was ever active in the fight, so to speak, to make me serious with religion was when it came to those nightly devotions. Because he'll be like, the entire family is here. Why are you the only one sitting in the parlor? Why are you the only one sitting in your room? Come inside. Let all of us sit together. Is the devil trying to use you? You know, all those fun things. But when it came to going to church, he wasn't really active. Like, he wouldn't say much because he knew I would come at him. Exactly. I'm like, you don't even attend. What do you mean? So he did not say much. So my mother was always like, "Oh, you're trying to be like him. You're trying to be like him." And so, as you said, he was very laid back. His influence wasn't that felt.
Yeah.
And it was just my mom.
Your siblings, were they also kind of disappointed? Or you mentioned that they weren't as religious, that you were the most religious out of your siblings.
Yeah.
But I'm still curious to what their reactions were.
Their reaction was pretty much like my mother's, but milder to them, because my rebellion, it bled into every other aspect of our family dynamic. Do you get? It was obvious that I was angry with the world, I was angry with all of them, and it showed in every now interaction. So whenever I keep coming back to this nightly devotion, because the memory of it is so poignant. Like, I can, because it was always a thing. And so when it was then to be like, "Oh, you started again. Why are you the only different one? Like, why are you too serious?" In fact, there's something that my immediate elder sister used to say to me, and she was like, "My problem is I know too much." My problem is I know too much.
How is that a problem? How is knowing too much a problem?
I feel like to them, I was challenging a worldview that they had already accepted. And that was a problem to them, because I keep saying this. I feel like many people are intellectually lazy, like, and they're afraid. Like, they don't want to reconcile with the fact that everything that they grew up believing is wrong or is false, because it shakes the foundation of their entire belief system. Where did they go from there? So it's scary news. So I don't actually hold it against them, but they were actually like very anti-me at that time. Like, everybody's doing this thing. Why is your own different? Why is your own different? But I've always been very strong-willed, I've always had strong opinions. So it didn't matter what they were saying. Like, I'm just going to do my own thing. Please don't stress me.
Yeah, like, I feel like sometimes you really need to be strong-willed, because otherwise you're kind of lying to yourself. And that could be exhausting. It could be very draining. Having to go to church, having to sit down through service, and just blabbing about something, making you aggressive, making you angry, making you upset. So sometimes you just have to stand up for yourself and put a foot down. I think it was about your elder sister. I'm actually very surprised, because when it came to me, I feel like my siblings do not really care. But I'm not sure if it's because I'm the oldest, and maybe I don't know, like, I'm not in the position where they can tell me something, or I don't even know. Like, the dynamics is kind of different. I imagine if I had an older brother or an older sister, my parents are going to report me to them, so it's kind of different. So maybe that's why. Or were your younger siblings also very...
It's funny, because right now, my younger siblings are actually, like, they don't identify as atheists, but they're definitely not interested in religion.
Yeah.
At all. So I have two younger siblings. The first one, the immediate younger sibling, like, she's in school now. She doesn't go to church. She hasn't gone to church in forever. I think since 2021, like, it's been 2 years, if not more, because for a time we didn't live together, even before she got into school, because I was living with my eldest sister and then she was still back home and we weren't really in touch at that time. Yeah. But I know that I don't know if I influenced them.
Yeah, I think you
because
did.
we talk about it.
Yeah.
We talk about it. Even my brother is like,
yeah. You'd have
he's the only one at home now.
Siblings, it's very normal. And especially once you start asking these questions in the family.
It gets them thinking.
Like, why are you not going to church? Why don't you want to go to church? And you lay out your reasons. Every normal human being is going to be like, hold up.
Yeah.
It makes sense.
So my younger siblings are definitely not, they are not Christians. My brother is pretending right now because he's not actually pretending because he actually voices. It's so funny. I see a lot of him. I see a lot of myself in him rather because he's now at the stage where he's not in the choir, but he's in the like technical team. People that do the whole setting up the projector, the mics or whatever, all the instruments they use in the church. So he has to like go to church on Saturdays, like prepare for Sunday services. And he's at this stage where he's like, I'm not interested in going.
Yeah.
And so it's now him and my mother. And he's like, oh, you're trying to be like Jesus.
Oh yeah, I was about to ask if you get blessed. But any small thing, it's always going to be you.
Yeah, it's always going to be me. And so like during service, like Sundays, I'll be working and then he'll be texting me like, oh my God, I'm so bored. Oh my God, someone save me from this. Like, what is going on? And it's like, yeah. So the only people who attend church, apart from my mother and my two older siblings, it's crazy. Yesterday, my sister sent a picture to our family group chat and she was like, throwback, and I saw I don't know what year it was, but like of course imagine the me of 2017 and the me now, like so different and massive grow up, if I do say so myself. And so she was like, oh my God, God has been so good to us. I thank God for how far he has brought us. And me, I'm like, please, I'm not thanking anybody but myself.
Oh my God.
And then she sent this no. Talk about this now. I actually get like it's a slight to me. I feel very upset when people credit any of my success or personal improvement or whatever to God. It pisses me off.
Yeah.
When I pass an exam and I'm grateful for it because like I studied and I put in the work and you're like, oh, God saw you through. Like it pisses me off. What do you mean? Are you discounting my personal efforts?
Yeah.
Don't play. I said, God, I'm not thanking God. I'm not thanking anyone but myself. Please stop playing. And my brother was like, thank you. Thank you to yourself. They're the ones that are churchy people.
But at least you have that support in the family, because I feel like being an atheist, especially in the Nigerian environment, can be very isolating and very lonely. So I'm glad you have that. But talking about loneliness and, how isolating being an atheist in Nigeria can be, how about your friends? How has navigating friendship as an atheist been like?
It's been complicated to a large extent. So I want to like talk about the context of friendship within the context of like my life in uni.
Mm-hmm.
When I got into uni, I was already at a place where I was like, yeah, I am no longer pretending to be this. And I remember one of the first friends I made then, she was like, oh, you just haven't found a preacher who convinced you, who will like share the word with you. And I found that very insulting, because what do they want to tell me that I don't already know? Like, it's the same thing I've been hearing all my life. Like, that's not what I want. But I see that she was trying to like convert me. That's her business.
Like some but it's a business. So you kind of, if your customers are mostly young, there are certain things you just don't say. You're not going to say, don't wear wigs or don't wear trousers. Nobody wants to hear that.
Yeah, nobody wants to hear that.
So, yeah, maybe that's what they mean by you just find the right.
I don't. But so the thing is, religion wasn't like much of a factor for me. Like when I was making friends, because like it's a new environment, you need to like get along with people to like figure school out. So I put atheism on the back burner. Like it wasn't a criteria for me making friends. So I had, in fact, all my friends at the time were Christian. But the thing I never did was pretend to be into what they were into. So it was like, they don't talk to me. about going to church or stuff like that because they knew my stance.
Yeah.
So I do not really, like, we never really had conversations about, like, the conversations we had are like, oh, why do you believe this? Why do you think this? And I would, like, say it, and to be them trying to convince me that I'm wrong. And I'm like, let's not go into this, because I feel like
the argument. I can't understand this. I'm sorry for cutting you off, but I can't really understand that dynamic when you're getting along with someone and the topic religion is brought up.
Yeah.
You don't want to pretend. You don't want to be. In fact, I'm someone I can't pretend. It's very exhausting. It's very draining.
It's exhausting.
Yeah. So I end up saying I'm an atheist. And when they tried to make it a debate, I'm just like, for the sake of our friendship, do not go there.
Yes. Don't go there.
Fine, we get along. Don't go there. Don't ruin the friendship.
So that was it. And I never really like said I was an atheist to anyone. Like when I get introduced to people or when situation calls for, it's Nigeria, they'll begin events with prayer, and like I found that very jarring, but I never said anything. And I continued like that. Like, I'm an atheist, people close to me know, but it never really came up. It's just like, I'm not interested in religion. Oh, yeah, why you go to church? I'm not interested in religion. Until last year. Last year was when I became very vocal about my atheism. I lost a lot of friends along the way. It had nothing to do with religion, but when it happened, and now that I'm in a space where the friends I have currently, I don't have to like say, oh, I just don't feel like going to church or whatever. I say it that I'm an atheist, and they're in the process of deconstructing. I have a few Christian friends. Let me not say a few. I think just two, actually. Just two Christian friends. The others are one leg in, one leg out. And right now I'm in a space where it's one of the first things I tell people when we're about to like form a friendship.
Yeah.
When we're about to like start talking, because like I truly I think I've told you. I told you recently I am exhausted.
In fact, let's talk about it now, because that's how I kind of navigate friendship as well.
Recently, as I said, last year, so many things changed for me personally. I stopped I wasn't necessarily pretending all along, but I wasn't vocal about a lot of stuff. But last year I was like, you know what? It's exhausting. Trying these people, the fact that I'm not vocal about some personal stances makes people think that I stand for things I do not stand for. So it started from little things like we having a meeting in a group that I belong to in school, and they're like, oh, let's stand up to pray. And I'm like, yeah, I'm not interested in this. And they're like, why? And I remember this because they said, let's stand up to pray. And they were like, why? And I said, if a Muslim was here, would we still have to do it? Because it was a Christian prayer. Would we still have to pray in the name of Jesus? And they're like, are you a Muslim? I said, no, I'm an atheist. And the silence the silence was so, everyone was just looking at me. And then some people that knew, because I had one or two friends there, and they were whispering, because I heard, because it was me facing off with the leader of the group. And I'm like, no, I'm an atheist. And I was looking at her I dare you to say something. And people behind you are like, oh my God, Lillian's an atheist. And you're like, oh yes, you didn't know. And I could hear proud of myself, because let them know, because you flout your religion up and now you make it almost as if it's it's the norm, not even almost, it's the norm.
And it has
you just assume that
everybody's throat.
Yeah. You're at the top and nothing else matters. I'm like, I am not going to do this. And ever since that day, they would stand up to pray and I would just sit down and pressing my phone. And it became a thing. Another time, I took a criminology course last semester, 400 level. And when we had to do clinic work, because they have a law clinic in the faculty where we attend issues from people that cannot afford legal fees. And so we being students of the course, we had to it was sort of an interning stuff. And the woman in charge of the clinic was a very punk Christian.
Oh my gosh.
I have stories to tell about that experience. That one was, oh my God, no. I feel sad.
Some of the stuff.
We're doing onboarding my team. She was talking about stuff and you need to, and I was so upset because, like, how does this relate to anything that we're here to do? And she was like, you need to hold us strongly. With God, anything can happen. And the other thing is, like, so many of the people that come here with terrible issues, they are holding God strongly, yet their lives are, oh my God, their lives are just some of the worst that you could ever, like, encounter. And you're here saying all these things to me. And I remember telling her that, like, no, she spoke to me personally. I can't remember what happened. Maybe she noticed because sometimes I have trouble controlling my head. I was like, hey, you. Like, I introduced myself. She's like, hey, I noticed you're looking. I was like, she said, you don't believe me. I said, I don't believe any of this. And then she just like to me. And I just looked at her and I feel like she got the message. I was like, just wrap it up. But I didn't want to be disrespectful because that's a different story.
Yeah.
So I was just like, and then I remember after that, like when we left and when it was just us students, and my classmates were like, you could have just let it go. You could have just pretended. I was like, no, I couldn't have. Like, I'm done with that. I'm not going to pretend to. Yeah. That's it.
Yeah, I think I'm the same way as well. It's very, very difficult for me to pretend. And just like you, my face usually gives it away, even if I'm not saying anything. So it's like I can't really control it. So it's very exhausting having to pretend to be what you're not. But given the fact that I grew up here, I grew up in Germany. So most of my friends growing up were atheists. So I didn't really have to, pretend or anything.
Yeah.
It wasn't really a topic. It wasn't really a thing. Of course, you're an atheist. Like, I felt like being religious was what was weird.
Abnormal. Yeah.
I wouldn't say abnormal. It's
okay.
It was just okay, you're religious, but I feel like the way religious people also move, based on the fact that there are so many atheists here, we don't really get religion shoved down our throats. Of course, there are some people who say, God is good and Jesus loves everyone and whatnot, but everybody kind of minds their business. So I wasn't in positions in which I had to like pretend. But starting uni, my space became, my friends were from different parts of the world. So I have a friend from Somalia, I have a friend from Afghanistan, and they're Muslims, and they wear the hijabs. So, and we get along, we vibe, everything is fine. But of course, there are some things that I feel like I can't discuss with them, which is so sad. It makes me so sad. And, that's what we talked about. So it kind of makes me sad because these are my friends and we talk about so many things. We talk about feminism, talk about like everything, boys, everything. And we go to uni together, we're studying the same course. But when it comes to even certain feminist topics, I feel like I'm unable to bring up because religion sometimes is and the opposite kind of happens to me. So the opposite of what happened to you, where starting out you had a lot of religious friends, and then eventually you kind of like put your foot down and said, okay, this is who I am. Whoever wants to leave, and whoever wants to stay stays. For me, it was kind of the opposite. Like, I found myself in a space for the first time where I had to kind of navigate having religious friends. It makes me sad that I'm sometimes unable to be myself around them. They know I'm an atheist, but we just do not talk about religion because when we do, or if we do, everyone knows what's going to happen. Yeah. And navigating that space, I'm still learning how to.
Okay. It's actually very sad because, as you said, you can't bring up some feminist issues because the interplay of like sexism and religion is so they're very it's so intertwined, and I see them exhibit, like my Christian friends, I see them exhibit, and family too, what am I saying? And I see them exhibit some behaviors or like express thoughts and opinions that are very anti-woman. Like, they're very, very wrong.
Yeah.
And it's difficult bringing this up because, okay, when it comes to my family, it's not difficult bringing this up because, like,
they can't disown you.
Yeah, like, they can't disown me. So I'm always talking my shit. I have been so comfortable voicing my opinions. I do not care if nobody agrees. I have to let you know that you're wrong and I am right. So when it comes to my family, it's easy for me to, like, say, even if we get into fights, it's like, oh, your own is too much, you're doing too much. I'm doing too much because you're not doing enough. But when it comes to friendships, it's difficult because they hold their religion so dear to them. And it's now, as you said, like, it's uncomfortable. I do not want to lose this friendship. Mm. But same time, you're making me uncomfortable because the fact that you believe this, it makes me trust you less. Like, I cannot fully be myself with you because I do not trust you to look out for my well-being when it comes to certain situations. And it just makes it difficult. It's actually very sad.
Yeah, it's actually very sad navigating that space because, I mean, things are easy if you're not really close to someone. It's not a thing of, oh, I'm going to get into trouble or they're going to, you know, like it's not that kind of situation. It's more of a, I really care about this person. We have a lot of fun. This is my friend that I hold really dear. But, you know, sometimes certain things are said where I feel like, what just happened? Where you're like just confused, just what happened?
Very confused, like
like, you know, maybe they start quoting from the Quran or saying things from the Quran, and you're just there like, girl, I really love you, but do you really believe this? And
oh my God,
if you don't really get along with someone, it's easier to say, oh, what you're saying is bullshit. Like, what do you mean?
Yes, because you don't care about their feelings. You don't care if their feelings are hurt.
Yeah. And when it comes to your family, they already know how you are. Like, most
they already know.
No. When it comes to friendships that you hold really dear, it's
different.
Yeah, it's very different. Which is why I'm very glad to have you because, you know, you're an atheist and feminist as well. So I feel like I can talk about everything, and, you know, we usually get to talk for very, very long time. Like, I could send 20-minute audio and I just know you're going to listen to it. And when it comes to you, what I love is you send a very long audio and then you'll be like, thanks for coming to my TED Talk.
No, I love it. Like, I really appreciate that I can be myself with you. It's just, I know, it's very free. I love it.
Yeah. Definitely. So, how about romantic relationships? We've talked about family, we've talked about friendship. Let's talk about romantic relationships.
Yeah, let's.
And here the focus is also obviously as a female atheist because differences.
Okay. This part may be very boring because, as you know, I am very anti-man. So I have very few. What do I say? Very few. In fact, I feel like I've only been in like 2 relationships that are worth talking about. In fact, just 1.5. Let me say 1.
1.5. What does that mean?
It's like this is another thing. Like, men have always been very irritating. I was a feminist before I even knew that the concept existed. Like, it just puts me off. So I'm actually like the kind of person that it takes a lot for me to like have romantic interest in you. That's the thing. Like, so it complicated things for me romantically, and I didn't care. But when I did find people who I was like interested in, it was still at a time where I was still okay. The first relationship I had, religion wasn't even a big thing because I was still playing pretend, and that's why I don't count it because like I was.
But also with him. Also with him, or because I feel like especially if you are in a romantic relationship, your partner must have got some vibes, you know.
Yeah. So like, but like, I truly cannot remember anything noteworthy. It wasn't it was so minor. But then the one relationship, that's the half. The one relationship I can talk about, he was.
That's not a situation. It wasn't a relationship, a situation.
It wasn't a relationship. Like, it's not even that long enough for me to remember. No, that's how.
That doesn't count.
That doesn't count. But the one that counts, because like we were together for, I think, 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
It was very long. Like I got into that relationship before I got into uni, and then we broke up 2021. So like
I know, pink lip.
So like at the start, we were both like not religious. I don't think I was like labeling myself as an atheist then, but like I knew that like I wasn't interested in religion, and so he too wasn't interested in religion.
Yeah.
So it was a thing where our conversations were mainly about the differences in our upbringing, because this is the thing that I think doesn't get talked about a lot. Like the indoctrination that goes on when we're much younger, like Christians who convert, if that's like right term, into atheism. Like it's hard. It's just like working on internalized misogyny.
Yeah.
Like there's something you don't realize how much religion shaped some of your mindsets until you start actively deconstructing. So at that time, I was like, oh yeah, I'm not interested in this, and he too wasn't. But then I grew up Pentecostal. Is that, oh my God, the fact that I cannot even remember the denomination. Yeah, Pentecostal. And then he grew up as a Jehovah's Witness.
Oh wow!
And do you know anything about Jehovah's Witnesses? Even though we were like, yeah, we're not doing this, we never attend church or meeting, because he calls his meeting.
Yeah.
There were still some areas where we like collided and we had like conflicts, because he had internalized some weird beliefs. And me, I was still operating from, because the Pentecostal believe that. I don't know about others, but like my own brand of Pentecostal, we believe that all other denominations are doing nonsense. Like they don't know what they're talking about. Their understanding of the Bible is flawed. This is funny because I feel like every denomination believes.
Yeah, exactly.
The Catholics, the Seventh-day Adventists, the Jehovah's Witnesses, the
Deeper Life,
everybody, Deeper Life, the Redeemers, all of them, like they believe that they are following the right path. And so in the beginning of the relationship, at least, because we grew as like we moved on, we had some conflicts where it's like, oh, the issue of, I think they don't, oh my God, the blood transfusion.
Yeah.
Like I feel like it's not allowed. Yeah, I think I remember correctly. It's not allowed in Jehovah's Witnesses, and it was like a point of contention for me. Like it's so funny, you know, when you're in that state of relationship and you're fantasizing about a future life, and then we'll be having conversations about, oh, if this happens, and then I'm like, why would somebody believe that? Like that makes no sense. And it would go into, this is why Jehovah's Witnesses don't have sense, and then like Pentecostals are this in hindsight, those are very silly arguments. But we had those conversations, but then later on, when we fully we let go, because like by the time the relationship ended, I was fully comfortable in my atheism. So we were both like labeling ourselves as atheists. So it was now us versus them. We were now the ones looking out into the world, watching the Christians, watching the religious people in our lives, bonding over how like our mothers were still holding out hope that we would one day wake up and see the light and say, oh, we've been singing all along. We want to be welcome back into the fold. Like we want to accept the Christianity again. So it was an us versus them thing. But then outside of that relationship, because I've had like interactions with people apart from my ex, and say, oh, maybe we're about to start something, but it never went anywhere because I haven't actually met an atheist, a male atheist, who I won't have anything to do with romantically. But I'm not even kidding.
Yeah. Like, no, I get that.
Yeah, because this is the thing. Atheism is not the sole criteria for romance. You're still a man.
No, it's true, because I feel like, at least in the kind of atheist spaces I tend to find myself in, there's some sort of, nobody's saying it out loud, but
Yeah.
I think there's this belief that just because you're an atheist, that means you have sense. And that's just not true. It just means you do not believe in any kind of superior being. You don't believe in any kind of God. And that's it. You're not more intelligent. You're not more anything, in my opinion.
Yep.
I hope nobody comes for me.
At all.
But that's just the truth.
It's the truth. It's the truth. Let's speak our truth. Like,
it's just what it is. And it's just one criteria. Like, I personally, I don't see myself dating someone who's not an atheist. But you being an atheist is not the only box you have to tick. So to me, it's just one box. It's not everything. It doesn't mean you are the
it's not everything.
Person. And yeah, like I've been in spaces where a lot of male atheists said a lot of disappointing things. And like you said,
yes,
there are other things that matter to me as well. Feminism is a very big, thing in my life.
Yep.
I don't want to be with someone who's very misogynistic. And misogyny is also a spectrum. So I feel like misogyny is a spectrum. And we are all in the process of unlearning. And there has to be willingness to unlearn. But yeah, like I just haven't met a lot of male atheists who I felt like have gotten to a point where misogyny has been unlearned. But yeah, so I kind of get that.
Yeah. So that's it.
Yeah.
Well, right now, like it's whenever I try to like start talking to a person with the intent of like starting a romantic relationship or whatever, like I always like start from there. In fact, I make it so known that I am a feminist first of all, and then I'm an atheist. So like,
me too. That order.
Make it secondary, and then you have to know this. And most times, let me talk about my experiences recently because like, okay, not so recent, but like mainly last year. Let's get into it. So I would meet people, and this is where I have an issue. Religious men. See, I feel like this is even going to get into men as a whole, not even that religion, because like they clearly see that you have no interest in, like there's no shared
interest, but they feel they are the ones that are going to turn things around for you.
They feel they're the exception. Oh my God, they feel they're the exception. And it makes zero sense to me. It's like one of the like most memorable, the one I can remember, because I remember how insanely upset I was with this man. He was like, I was like, and it was on a dating app, obviously. So that time when you were like, oh, try Bumble, and I tried it. Oh my God. I'll not forget my experiences. I was a Christian. And so when I was like, wait, this person is a Christian. Why they match with me? I'm like, because I'm a curious person. I'm like, oh yeah, let's see what he has to say. And so the first conversation like we had, I was like, oh yeah, so you do realize that I'm an atheist, right? And I'm a feminist. And he was like, yeah. So this is the thing. You know how men are very sick liars. Bear with me, people listening. This is who I am. But he was like, he made it seem as if he was in the process of deconstructing. Like he was like, oh, I'm not
do that. Okay, let me let you finish. Let me not get so riled up.
I want to hear you speak. Please say whatever you want to say. Get back to me. Don't worry. Why do you do that?
No, because I don't understand why you do that. Don't get me wrong. There's nothing bad in. I don't care if you are religious at the end of the day, but if you think that I'm an atheist and I would prefer being with an atheist. Why do you feel like you are going to be the exception? Why do you? Yes. And then it becomes a thing of, oh, I don't mind if you're an atheist. What if I don't give a fuck if you mind? It's not about you. It's about me.
It's me
that I want to be with someone who's an atheist, but you are telling me that you don't mind.
You don't mind
if I'm an atheist or not. Who the fuck cares about you? Like, I don't
like your opinion doesn't matter.
Seriously, why are they like that? Why do they feel? Wow. But continue.
Okay, oh, I'm not much of a religious person. And I am so good at picking out these funny lies. I'm like, oh, really? And then it was like, clinical, but I go to church once in a while. And then the conversation went into how, oh, Christian sisters are so in love with him and they're always finding reasons to come to his house and they always think of him. And it was now a matter of like, I was very clear. I already knew that I could not even consider talking with this man. I didn't respect him enough to talk to him as a friend. Talk less of trying to start anything. So it was just me trying to like laugh. I found him amusing and I was enjoying how much stupidity he was showcasing. And so I was like, okay, you are here and you're telling me about the Christian women that are coming to your house, and then he would be hinting out like sexual stuff that they do. And I'm like, isn't this against your religion?
That's not very, very religious of him. That's not very Christian of him.
Like, no, like, isn't this against your religion? Then he would try to play these games and say, well, it's not like I don't really do. Oh my God, how explicit can I get on this?
Well, I actually have no idea, but I think you can be as explicit as you want to be, because Ranting himself is very,
Okay, so he'll be like, oh, like there's penetration is not involved. In fact, I don't do anything. I just let her like give me blowjobs or whatever. And at that point, it was no longer amusing. I now felt very like irritated because I already knew you were an idiot from the start. I'm not sorry, but then you speaking about this woman in such a demeaning manner and trying to make it like, oh, I'm still religious, like I'm doing nothing wrong, as long as like. The that's cherry picking.
I do not like about. Sorry, that's one thing I don't like about religion and religious men, or just like the religious setting, is the fact that for the same, do I say sin, or for the same actions, men are usually, women are usually criticized more. The fact that they're so comfortable to look down on those women. Even though he's involved, he's enjoying himself. He's enjoying his no jobs. So that he felt so comfortable to look down on those women and judge
on those women.
It's the audacity. I'm talking about audacity. You see these things on TikTok. At least I see it a lot. Sometimes I find myself in the Muslim section, and maybe there's a strand of hair showing, and
oh my God,
the comment section will be filled like, oh, that's not very. There's this word they use. It's something modest, but haram. That it's haram.
Yes, haram.
It's and I'm just like, it's the audacity. Religion has
the audacity.
Men on a pedestal where they feel that they can judge.
They can do no wrong.
Exactly. Yes. And they can judge you as a woman simply because you're a woman. So I can't. I'm so glad that I'm not in that space, because it's a beautiful woman would be making a video about whatnot and just chatting and
they would just pick on,
just be filled with the gown you're wearing is not it's not
long enough or whatever. I can see your hands. Or God.
Oh
no. It's very. I do not. Sometimes I feel for the women there.
Yeah.
But then it's difficult to have this conversation there, because then it's like, oh, you don't understand our religion, or you don't understand why we do these things, like and it's exhausting. Like I don't even like to get
because
into
you
it.
Can clearly see that
this is
wrong. This is not how. This is unacceptable. But at the same time, they are in positions where
they
can't fight. You have to be very honest about what's going on. And I feel like that would involve a lot of questioning that a lot of people don't want to.
A lot of people don't want to.
Yeah.
Thank you for listening to this episode. Please subscribe up Apple, Spotify, YouTube, and other places podcasts are available. then check out the show notes for links you may find useful, including our Discord server. We'd love to have you there. Have a great week, and I will catch you on the next one.